Why does space exploration matter? For most of human history, we didn't even know what our planet looked like. Today, we're mapping the cosmos, reaching out to the stars, and one of the most unexpected players in this journey is India. The Indian Space Research Organization, or ISRO, is pushing the boundaries of what's possible, not just for India but for the entire world. From humble beginnings to moon landings, ISRO's journey is both a scientific marvel and a story of human tenacity. How did a developing nation manage to defy the odds and become a global leader in space exploration? Welcome to the AI Lib. The story of ISRO begins with one man, Dr. Vikram Sarabhai. In the 1940s, Sarabhai was a brilliant young physicist studying in Cambridge, but the outbreak of World War II altered his plans. Forced to return to India, Sarabhai's dreams of completing his studies abroad were shattered. Yet, his return marked the beginning of something far more significant: India's journey into space. Sarabhai's curiosity about cosmic rays during a daring expedition in the Himalayas sparked his lifelong interest in space science. He wasn't alone in this fascination. Around the same time, Dr. Homi Bhabha, another Indian scientific pioneer, was making waves in the field of nuclear physics. Together, Sarabhai and Bhabha imagined a future where India could harness the power of space technology for the benefit of all Indians. In 1957, the world's attention was caught by the Soviet Union's launch of Sputnik 1, the first artificial satellite. It was a wake-up call for nations worldwide, signaling the beginning of the space race. While the US and USSR scrambled to outdo each other, Sarabhai saw an opportunity for India. Despite the country's poverty and underdevelopment, he believed that space technology could be a catalyst for improving the lives of millions. Sarabhai's vision laid the foundation for what would become ISRO. But starting a space program in a country facing immense challenges wasn't easy. How do you convince a nation struggling with basic needs like food and health to invest in rockets and satellites? Sarabhai had an ace up his sleeve. His mentor, Homi Bhabha, was well connected within the Indian government and had the ear of Jawaharlal Nehru, India's first prime minister. With Bhabha's influence and Nehru's support, the Indian National Committee for Space Research, in COSPR, was established in 1962, with Sarabhai at its helm. The early days of India's space program were marked by ingenuity, perseverance, and sheer determination. In 1963, Sarabhai and his team were ready to launch their first sounding rocket. A sounding rocket, designed to study the Earth's atmosphere, would be India's first step into the world of space exploration. But there was a problem. India didn't have the infrastructure to launch a rocket. The launch site chosen was in Tumba, a tiny coastal village in Kerala. Without roads suitable for transporting delicate rocket components, the team resorted to using ox carts and bicycles to carry the equipment to the site. In a country where space exploration seemed like a far-fetched dream, these images of rockets being transported on bullock carts became iconic, symbolizing the makeshift yet determined spirit of ISRO. Convincing the local population to vacate their village for this scientific experiment wasn't easy. Sarabhai sought the help of the village priest, who delivered a powerful sermon linking science with spirituality. Science and spirituality both seek truth and do good to humanity, he told his congregation. This message resonated, and the villagers agreed to support the mission. On November 21, 1963, with the world watching, India launched its first rocket. The rocket carried a payload from France, boosters provided by NASA, and computers from the Soviet Union, a global collaboration for a national dream. The success of this launch marked the beginning of ISRO's long and storied journey into space. Vikram Sarabhai's vision for ISRO wasn't just about rockets and space exploration. He saw space technology as a tool for national development. In a country struggling with illiteracy, poverty, and limited communication infrastructure, Sarabhai believed that satellites could be the key to solving these problems. Sarabhai envisioned satellites that could broadcast educational programs to remote villages, deliver health information, and even help with agricultural planning. His dream was not just to explore space for the sake of science, but to use space to improve life on Earth. This idea was radical at the time, but it became the cornerstone of ISRO's mission. In 1975, Sarabhai's dream started to come to fruition with the launch of SITE, the Satellite Instructional Television Experiment. This project aimed to deliver educational programs to over 2,400 rural villages in India. The content included lessons on family planning, hygiene, agriculture, and more. It was the world's largest sociological experiment at the time, and it showcased the power of satellite technology in transforming lives. Although Sarabhai passed away in 1971, his vision lived on. Under the leadership of Dr. Satish Dhawan, ISRO continued to pursue Sarabhai's goal of harnessing space technology for national development. SITE was a resounding success and proved that satellites could play a crucial role in bridging the gap between India's rural and urban populations. As the Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, grew, so did its ambitions. The early rocket launches with external help were groundbreaking, but there was an underlying issue. Each of ISRO's satellite launches relied heavily on foreign technology. While the global collaboration for India's first rocket launch in 1963 was a crucial learning experience, the Indian space program had to stand on its own if it wanted to be truly independent. ISRO needed to develop its own rocket program, one that could carry satellites into space without external aid. But how do you start developing rockets in a country where hunger, poverty, and unemployment are at the forefront of national concerns? In the early 1970s, Vikram Sarabhai's vision for ISRO continued to influence the organization even after his untimely death in 1971. Dr. Sarabhai's dream was to not only explore space, but also to use space technology for practical benefits that could uplift the lives of everyday Indians. His ideas about satellite technology as a tool for education, communication, and resource management had begun to materialize. However, the biggest obstacle to achieving Sarabhai's broader goals was India's lack of indigenous rocket launching capabilities. While ISRO had successfully launched sounding rockets and some smaller payloads with international help, India had yet to launch its own satellite on its own rocket. The challenge was significant. Rockets capable of delivering satellites into space require precision engineering, advanced material science, and a deep understanding of physics. This kind of technology was not something India had access to at the time. The country lacked the infrastructure and technical expertise required to build and test these rockets. Moreover, the financial constraints were immense. Building a fully indigenous rocket was an expensive endeavor, and India's economy in the 1970s was still recovering from the effects of colonialism and the ravages of post-independence conflicts. Despite these challenges, ISRO's leadership, particularly under Dr. Satish Dhawan, was determined to make this dream a reality. Enter the Satellite Launch Vehicle (SLV) program. The SLV was designed to be India's first indigenous rocket, capable of delivering small satellites into low Earth orbit. The task of developing this ambitious project fell to a young scientist named Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, who would later become one of the most famous figures in India's space and defense sectors. Dr. Kalam, known for his humble demeanor and dedication to his work, led a team of young engineers and scientists who were as determined as he was to see India launch its own satellites. The SLV-3, India's first satellite launch vehicle, was a four-stage rocket designed to carry a payload of around 40 kilograms into low Earth orbit. This was a huge technical challenge for ISRO at the time, as the rocket's complexity required expertise in many areas. Everything from propulsion systems to navigation technology had to be developed from scratch. The project faced numerous setbacks, including technical failures, resource shortages, and delays. But the ISRO team pressed on, learning from each failure and making incremental improvements along the way. After several years of hard work, the SLV-3 was ready for its first launch in 1979. The excitement surrounding the launch was palpable. If successful, it would mark a new era for India's space program, demonstrating the country's ability to develop its own rocket technology. The countdown began, and for a brief moment, it seemed that everything was going according to plan. But then disaster struck. Just minutes after liftoff, the rocket veered off course and crashed into the Bay of Bengal. The mission was a failure, and for a moment, it seemed like all of the hard work had been for nothing. In the face of this failure, ISRO's resolve was tested. The media was quick to criticize, questioning whether India's space program was worth the investment. But Dr. Satish Dhawan, ISRO's chairman at the time, displayed remarkable leadership. Instead of allowing his team to take the blame, he took full responsibility for the failure. In doing so, Dhawan protected the morale of his team and ensured that they would continue their work with renewed determination. Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, who was devastated by the failure, later recalled how Dhawan's support was crucial in helping the team bounce back. Just a year later, in 1980, ISRO made another attempt to launch the SLV-3. This time, the rocket performed flawlessly, placing the Rohini satellite into orbit. India had finally joined the elite club of nations capable of launching satellites into space. The success of the SLV-3 was a pivotal moment in ISRO's history. It demonstrated that India could achieve technological self-sufficiency in space exploration, despite the challenges it faced. More importantly, it laid the groundwork for future rocket development programs, including the more advanced Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, PSLV, and Geosynchronous Satellite Launch Vehicle, GSLV, programs. Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, whose leadership was instrumental in the success of the SLV-3, would later go on to become the Missile Man of India and eventually serve as the country's president. With the successful launch of the SLV-3 in 1980, ISRO had proven that India could develop its own rockets and launch satellites into space. However, the next phase of the space program required even more advanced technology. While the SLV-3 was a remarkable achievement, its capabilities were limited. The next logical step was to develop rockets capable of carrying larger payloads and reaching higher orbits. This was crucial for launching communication satellites, weather satellites, and eventually interplanetary missions. Enter the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, PSLV, and the Geosynchronous Satellite Launch Vehicle, GSLV, programs. The PSLV was designed to launch satellites into a polar orbit where they would pass over the Earth's poles and provide comprehensive coverage of the planet. This made it ideal for Earth observation satellites, which could be used for mapping, environmental monitoring, and disaster management. The PSLV was a major step forward for ISRO, as it allowed the organization to launch heavier satellites and offer more sophisticated satellite services to both India and international clients. The development of the PSLV wasn't without its challenges. Like the SLV-3, it required years of research and development, as well as overcoming numerous technical hurdles. The first PSLV launch in 1993 ended in failure when the rocket malfunctioned just seconds after liftoff. However, ISRO's team, having learned from past setbacks, remained resilient. They analyzed the failure, identified the issues, and made the necessary improvements. In 1994, the PSLV successfully launched a satellite into orbit, marking the beginning of one of ISRO's most successful rocket programs. Over the next 2 decades, the PSLV would go on to become the workhorse of India's space program. It was used to launch a wide variety of satellites, including communication satellites, Earth observation satellites, and even interplanetary probes. One of the most significant achievements of the PSLV came in 2008, when it launched 10 satellites on a single mission, setting a world record at the time. This demonstrated ISRO's growing expertise in managing complex space missions and further solidified its reputation as a reliable and cost-effective space agency. The PSLV's success also allowed ISRO to begin offering satellite launch services to other countries. By the early 2000s, ISRO had become a major player in the global satellite launch market, providing affordable and reliable launch services to countries that didn't have their own space programs. This not only earned ISRO millions in revenue, but also helped strengthen India's diplomatic relationships with other nations. ISRO's ability to launch satellites for countries like Israel, France, and even the United States showcased India's growing influence in the space sector. While the PSLV was a major success, ISRO's ambitions didn't stop there. The organization set its sights on developing even more powerful rockets capable of launching larger satellites into geostationary orbits. These orbits are crucial for communication satellites, which need to remain fixed over a specific location on Earth to provide continuous service. To achieve this, ISRO began developing the Geosynchronous Satellite Launch Vehicle, GSLV, in the 1990s. The GSLV program faced numerous challenges, particularly in developing the cryogenic engine technology required for the rocket's upper stage. Cryogenic engines, which use supercooled liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen as propellants, are incredibly efficient but also extremely difficult to design and manufacture. In the early years of the GSLV program, ISRO had to rely on cryogenic engines imported from Russia. However, The eventual goal was to develop an indigenous cryogenic engine that would allow India to launch its own heavy satellites without relying on foreign technology. The GSLV's development was marked by both triumphs and setbacks. The first successful launch of a GSLV rocket occurred in 2001, but subsequent missions experienced failures due to technical issues. It wasn't until 2014 that ISRO successfully launched a GSLV equipped with an indigenous cryogenic engine. This was a major milestone for India's space program, as it demonstrated the country's ability to develop and operate advanced rocket technology independently. The success of the PSLV and GSLV programs has had a profound impact on India's space program. Not only have these rockets enabled ISRO to launch a wide range of satellites, but they have also paved the way for more ambitious missions, such as Chandrayaan and Mangalyaan. With these rockets, ISRO has established itself as a global leader in space exploration and satellite services, and the organization's reputation continues to grow with each successful mission. With the success of the PSLV and GSLV, ISRO set its sights on more ambitious goals, taking India from launching satellites to deep space exploration. The first major leap was the Chandrayaan-1 mission, launched in 2008. This was India's first mission to the moon, and it aimed to map the lunar surface and search for water. Chandrayaan-1's primary mission objectives included creating a detailed topographical map of the moon, studying its chemical composition, and investigating the presence of water ice in its polar regions. Chandrayaan-1 was a groundbreaking mission for several reasons. Not only was it India's first mission to the moon, but it also carried a payload of scientific instruments from international partners, including NASA, the European Space Agency, and Bulgaria. The mission was a testament to ISRO's growing credibility in the global scientific community, as other space agencies entrusted it with carrying out important research. The most significant discovery of the Chandrayaan-1 mission came when NASA's Moon Mineralogy Mapper, an instrument on board the spacecraft, detected the presence of water molecules on the lunar surface. This was a monumental finding, as it changed the scientific community's understanding of the moon and opened up the possibility of future lunar exploration with the aim of using the moon as a base for human exploration of deeper space. But Chandrayaan-1 wasn't the only mission that propelled ISRO onto the global stage. Just a few years later, in 2013, ISRO launched the Mars Orbiter mission, Mangalyaan, India's first interplanetary mission. Remarkably, Mangalyaan succeeded in its very first attempt, an achievement that only a few countries have managed. The mission was even more impressive due to its low cost, about $74 million, which was significantly cheaper than comparable missions by NASA and the European Space Agency. In fact, it was less expensive than some Hollywood space movies. The Mangalyaan mission was designed to study the Martian atmosphere, surface, and mineral composition. The data collected by the spacecraft has contributed to a better understanding of Mars' climate and surface conditions, and it has helped in the ongoing search for signs of life on the planet. Chandrayaan and Mangalyaan showcased ISRO's growing capabilities in space exploration. These missions demonstrated that ISRO could compete with the world's leading space agencies, not just in terms of technology, but also in terms of cost-effectiveness. India's successful entry into the realm of deep space exploration established the country as a serious player in the global space race, inspiring national pride and global admiration. One of the most talked about aspects of ISRO's success is its ability to achieve world-class results at a fraction of the cost of other space agencies. While agencies like NASA or the European Space Agency often have billion-dollar budgets for their missions, ISRO operates with significantly less financial backing. This makes its achievements, particularly in deep space exploration and satellite technology, all the more remarkable. So, how does ISRO manage to achieve so much with so little? One key factor is the organization's focus on efficiency and simplicity. Unlike other agencies that might invest in cutting-edge, complex technologies, ISRO tends to use tried-and-tested methods, reducing costs while ensuring reliability. This doesn't mean that ISRO shies away from innovation. Rather, it's selective about where to invest in cutting-edge technology. Another factor is ISRO's emphasis on collaboration. For many of its missions, ISRO works with international space agencies, sharing knowledge, technology, and resources. This approach allows ISRO to tap into the expertise of global partners while keeping its own costs down. For instance, Chandrayaan-1 carried scientific instruments from NASA, the European Space Agency, and Bulgaria, making it a collaborative mission that advanced scientific knowledge while distributing the costs and risks among several partners. ISRO also benefits from a culture of Jugaad, a Hindi term that roughly translates to finding creative, cost-effective solutions. This philosophy of frugal innovation is deeply ingrained in the organization. For example, in the case of the Mars Orbiter mission, ISRO engineers had to find ways to minimize fuel consumption to keep costs down. They used clever orbital mechanics to slingshot the spacecraft around the Earth before sending it on its way to Mars, saving both fuel and money. This focus on efficiency has allowed ISRO to achieve incredible milestones while keeping its budget in check. It's why ISRO has earned the nickname the world's most cost-effective space agency. And it's also why the organization has become a preferred partner for countries looking to launch their satellites at a fraction of the cost charged by other space agencies. ISRO's cost-effective approach has not only earned it international acclaim but has also inspired other countries to adopt similar models. As space exploration becomes more competitive and commercialized, ISRO's ability to deliver results on a budget will likely continue to set it apart in the coming decades. ISRO's rise as a global space player isn't just about its achievements in satellite launches and deep space missions. A big part of ISRO's success story lies in its international collaborations. Over the years, ISRO has worked with some of the world's leading space agencies, including NASA, the European Space Agency, and the Russian Space Agency. These collaborations have been instrumental in ISRO's growth, allowing the agency to access cutting-edge technology, share research, and benefit from the expertise of its global partners. One of the most notable international collaborations came during the Chandrayaan-1 mission. NASA's Moon Mineralogy Mapper, M3, which was aboard Chandrayaan-1, was the instrument that detected water on the Moon. This discovery was a game-changer for lunar exploration and was only possible due to the collaborative effort between ISRO and NASA. Such collaborations are a win-win for both parties, as they allow the sharing of costs, risks, and scientific rewards. ISRO's international partnerships are not limited to government space agencies. The organization also collaborates with commercial space companies and other private entities. For example, Antriksh Corporation, ISRO's commercial arm, has helped launch over 300 foreign satellites for various countries. By offering low-cost, reliable satellite launch services, ISRO has become a preferred partner for countries and companies that need to get their payloads into space but lack the resources to do it themselves. One of the major advantages of these collaborations is that they help foster diplomatic relationships between countries. Space exploration has always had a diplomatic dimension, with countries using their space programs to signal technological prowess and form strategic alliances. By helping countries launch their satellites, ISRO is not just advancing space science, but also strengthening India's position on the global stage. In recent years, ISRO has also expanded its role in international scientific missions. In 2020, ISRO joined NASA's Artemis program, an international effort to return humans to the Moon by 2024. ISRO's contribution to this mission includes developing technologies that will be used in the lunar landings. Collaborating on such high-profile missions highlights India's growing role as a major player in global space exploration. Looking ahead, ISRO's international collaborations are likely to become even more important. As the space industry becomes more commercialized and competitive, ISRO's ability to offer low-cost, reliable space services will make it a key partner for countries and companies around the world. In addition, as space exploration moves beyond low Earth orbit to missions focused on the Moon, Mars, and beyond, ISRO's role in global space exploration will likely grow, helping to shape the future of humanity's presence in space. No space program is without its challenges, and ISRO's journey has been marked by its share of setbacks. Yet, what stands out about ISRO is its ability to learn from failure and turn setbacks into opportunities for growth. This resilience has been key to the organization's long-term success and has helped ISRO weather even the most difficult challenges. One of the most notable failures in ISRO's history was the Chandrayaan-2 mission. Launched in 2019, the mission aimed to land a rover on the Moon's South Pole, a region that had never been explored before. The mission was highly anticipated, both in India and around the world. However, just moments before touchdown, communication with the Vikram lander was lost. The lander crashed, and the mission was deemed a partial failure. The loss of the Vikram lander was a major disappointment for ISRO. The mission had been years in the making, and hopes were high that it would make India the first country to land on the lunar South Pole. However, ISRO's response to the failure was telling. Instead of giving up or blaming the team, ISRO immediately set about analyzing what went wrong. The organization identified the issues with the lander's descent system and began planning for Chandrayaan-3, a follow-up mission that would attempt to land on the moon again. ISRO's resilience in the face of failure is a testament to its culture of continuous improvement. Rather than being discouraged by setbacks, the organization uses them as learning opportunities. This approach has helped ISRO avoid repeating mistakes and has contributed to its growing success over the years. The Chandrayaan-2 failure was not the only challenge ISRO has faced. Over the years, the organization has had to contend with technical failures, budget constraints, and political pressures. For example, the early years of the GSLV program were marked by a series of failed launches. Developing the indigenous cryo-engine technology required for the GSLV was a massive challenge. ISRO initially relied on imported engines from Russia, but when international sanctions cut off that supply, the organization was forced to develop its own. The failures that followed in the early GSLV launches could have crippled the program, but instead, ISRO persevered. Engineers worked tirelessly to improve the cryogenic engine, learning from every failure. In 2014, their efforts finally paid off when the GSLV D5 successfully launched with an indigenous cryogenic engine, marking a major milestone in India's space program. Budget constraints have also been a persistent challenge for ISRO. Compared to other space agencies like NASA or the European Space Agency, ISRO operates on a much smaller budget. This has often meant that the organization has had to make difficult choices about where to allocate resources. Despite these constraints, ISRO has managed to achieve extraordinary things by focusing on cost-effective solutions and avoiding unnecessary complexity. The Mars Orbiter mission, for example, was completed at a fraction of the cost of comparable missions by other space agencies, yet it delivered critical scientific data and captured the world's imagination. Political pressures have also played a role in shaping ISRO's path. As a government-run organization, ISRO's activities are subject to the priorities of the Indian government, and there have been times when political factors have influenced the direction of the space program. For example, some critics have questioned the allocation of resources to space exploration when India faces significant challenges such as poverty, education, and healthcare. However, ISRO has consistently argued and demonstrated that its space missions have practical benefits for the country, from improving communication networks to aiding in disaster management. In the face of these challenges, ISRO has consistently demonstrated resilience and adaptability. Its ability to learn from failure, optimize its limited resources, and balance technical innovation with practical benefits has been key to its long-term success. ISRO's story is not just one of technological achievement, but one of determination, grit, and an unyielding belief in the potential of space exploration to transform lives on Earth. As ISRO continues to push the boundaries of space exploration, one of its most ambitious upcoming projects is the Gaganyaan mission, India's first attempt at sending humans into space. Set to launch in the near future, the Gaganyaan mission represents a bold new chapter in India's space story, aiming to place Indian astronauts in low Earth orbit and mark India's entry into the realm of human spaceflight. The Gaganyaan mission was first announced in 2018 by Prime Minister Narendra Modi during India's Independence Day celebrations. The goal of the mission is to send a crew of 3 Indian astronauts into space for a duration of 7 days. These astronauts, known as Vyomanauts, derived from the Sanskrit word for sky, will orbit the Earth at an altitude of about 300 kilometers. This mission will be a critical test of ISRO's ability to develop the technologies needed to support human spaceflight, including life support systems, space habitats, and reentry technologies. The journey to Gaganyaan has been filled with challenges. Human spaceflight is far more complex than launching satellites or robotic missions, as it requires ensuring the safety and well-being of the astronauts throughout the mission. ISRO has had to develop new systems for crew safety, including emergency escape mechanisms and advanced life support systems. In addition, the Gaganyaan mission will use a modified version of the GSLV Mk3 rocket, which will have to be tested rigorously to ensure it can safely transport humans into space. One of the most important aspects of the Gaganyaan mission is the international collaboration involved. ISRO has partnered with space agencies from around the world, including NASA and the Russian Space Agency, to learn from their experiences with human spaceflight. Russia, in particular, has played a key role in training Indian astronauts and providing technical support for the mission. The training of the Indian astronauts is taking place at the Yuri Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center in Russia, where they are being taught everything from spacecraft operations to survival techniques in case of emergency landings in remote areas. The Gaganyaan mission is not just about putting humans into space. It's about setting the stage for more ambitious human spaceflight missions in the future. If successful, Gaganyaan could pave the way for India to establish a long-term human presence in space, including the development of an Indian space station. ISRO has already hinted at plans to create a space station by 2030, which would allow India to conduct long-term scientific research in microgravity environments and participate in international space collaborations at a new level. The significance of the Gaganyaan mission goes beyond scientific and technological achievements. It represents a moment of national pride for India, signaling that the country is ready to compete with the world's leading spacefaring nations. Human spaceflight has always been a symbol of a nation's technological prowess, and by entering this exclusive club, India will be able to demonstrate its growing capabilities on the global stage. Moreover, Gaganyaan has the potential to inspire a new generation of scientists, engineers, and space enthusiasts in India. Just as the Apollo missions inspired countless young people around the world to pursue careers in science and engineering, the Gaganyaan mission could serve as a catalyst for India's next generation of space explorers. By showing that India is capable of sending humans into space, ISRO hopes to spark interest in space science and technology, fostering a new wave of innovation and exploration. As ISRO prepares for the launch of Gaganyaan, the world will be watching closely. A successful mission would not only mark a major milestone for India, but also solidify ISRO's position as a global leader in space exploration. And with the experience gained from this mission, the possibilities for future human spaceflight missions, both for India and its international partners, are truly limitless. While the Gaganyaan mission is one of ISRO's most ambitious current projects, it's just one piece of the organization's larger vision for the future. Over the next decade, ISRO aims to expand its role in space exploration, commercial satellite services, and technological innovation. The organization is looking toward deeper space missions, human spaceflight, and even the possibility of building infrastructure in space that could one day support human colonization of other planets. One of the most exciting areas of exploration for ISRO is its planned mission to Venus. Known as Chandrayaan-1, this mission aims to study the atmosphere and surface of Venus, a planet often referred to as Earth's twin due to its similar size and composition. However, Venus has a much more hostile environment, with surface temperatures hot enough to melt lead and an atmosphere thick with sulfuric acid. Understanding Venus' climate and geological history could provide valuable insights into how planets evolve and, more importantly, how Earth's own climate could change in the future. In addition to its Venus mission, ISRO is also planning to explore asteroids. Asteroids are considered the building blocks of the solar system, and studying them could help scientists understand the early history of our planetary system. ISRO's planned asteroid mission will likely involve sending a spacecraft to rendezvous with an asteroid, collect samples, and return them to Earth for analysis. Such missions are incredibly complex and technically challenging, but they also hold the potential for major scientific discoveries. Looking even further ahead, ISRO has expressed interest in missions to the outer planets, including Jupiter and Saturn. While these missions are still in the conceptual stage, they represent ISRO's long-term commitment to deep space exploration. These missions would involve sending spacecraft to study the gas giants, their moons, and the unique features of their planetary systems. Given the success of ISRO's past interplanetary missions, such as Mangalyaan, there is every reason to believe that the organization will eventually achieve these ambitious goals. Another key component of ISRO's future plans is the development of space infrastructure. As space exploration becomes more commercialized, the need for in-space infrastructure, such as satellites, space stations, and even potential lunar or Martian bases, will grow. ISRO is already laying the groundwork for this future, with plans to develop reusable launch vehicles, robotic missions to the moon, and advanced communication satellites that will form the backbone of a future space economy. ISRO's vision for the future is not just about exploration, but also about ensuring that space technology benefits humanity. From improving communication networks to enhancing disaster management systems, ISRO continues to develop technologies that have a real-world impact on people's lives. The organization's focus on satellite technology for agricultural monitoring, telemedicine, and education remains a core part of its mission, ensuring that space exploration contributes to solving the challenges we face on Earth. As ISRO looks to the future, one thing is clear: the organization's journey is far from over. With ambitious plans for human spaceflight, deep space exploration, and the development of space infrastructure, ISRO is poised to play a leading role in the next chapter of space exploration. The future of space is exciting, and ISRO will be at the forefront of these developments, shaping the destiny of humanity as we reach for the stars. So, what do you think? Is ISRO's journey into space just about exploration, or is it about something deeper? Perhaps humanity's quest to push beyond its limits and find new possibilities? If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any future updates. Check out the videos appearing on your screen right now for more insights and stories from the world of technology. This is the AI Lib. Stay tuned.